Hey, it's Gary Otten here with MaritimeGardening.com, and today I'm going to talk about pans. I've mentioned cast iron pans in videos before, and people have asked me to do a video on the cast iron pans, so I thought I'd follow up on that today. It's just the right day. I'm home, no one's in the house, and it's raining outside. There's really not a lot to do outside, so this is a perfect day to do a video about this. I'm going to talk about cast iron pans, cooking with them, and I'm even going to fry an egg on the cast iron pan because a lot of people think that they stick to cast iron pans. They don't, they're great. So let's jump into it here. So for years, I messed around with, I grew up in that age where Teflon pans were all the rage, right? And you could crack an egg and flip it and all that sort of stuff. And so I bought Teflon pans, and then you know as well as I do that when you buy a Teflon pan, every 3-5 years, you throw them away, and then you buy another Teflon pan. And you buy the best one you can, as your income increases, you buy better Teflon pans that cost more, and then you throw them away. And then you buy more. If you cook, see, I cook all the time. These are pans I use every day, or almost every day. One of these pans is in operation in the house every single day, or almost every day of the week, right? A Teflon pan could not stand up to that. I'm sure some of you have got some brand they, would go to war for, Tefal or something like that. I guarantee you, there's no Tefal pan that you can use for your entire life. Give to your kids and have them use and have them hand it down to their kids, and it work just as well as it worked 100 years ago. That's what you get with cast iron. It lasts generations, right? Not only that, so there's the advantage of that, right? And all of the environmental implications of that as well. Not only that, but you do get some trace amounts of iron in your food, which is something you need. So the only thing it lets into the food is something your body uses. It's totally fine. People have been using it for ages. There's people that live to 100 years old that use cast iron pans. They're safe, right? It's tested, true, right? The other great thing about a cast iron pan is you can pick one up at a yard sale for $2, $3. It'll last you your lifetime, right? You can go to a rummage store or whatever. You don't even need to buy new ones. In fact, I would not advise buying a new one if you can avoid it, because you do have to season them. So let me show you my pans. I've got 3. This one, literally took me when I left home, right? 1990, I left home, I took this pan with me, I've had it ever since. Made in Taiwan, right? It still works. It looks exactly like it looked it looks identical to how it looked when I left home back in 1990. It's still fine, still works great. Maybe one of my kids will take it with them. Well, no, I need this one. I'll get them their own. And then, so that's one size. I guess this is size 6, I guess. This has an 8 on it, so I guess it's a size 8, whatever that means, maybe 8 cups. Looks like it holds about 8 cups. It's a good size one. This one gets used most often for, like, we can put 4 eggs in it to make breakfast. But we, use it for cooking lots of different things. It's a great pan. You can use it for baking in the oven. You never have to worry about it wearing out. Where was this one made? Made in the US of A. Ware. There's some, I can't remember what that brand is, something Ware. This I got at, I think, a Canadian store, I don't know if it has in the United States, called Value Village. Right? It's just a place you go buy used stuff. Probably cost a couple bucks. Works great. Now this is a size up. This might be 12 inches, 30 centimeters in diameter, right? This is a big one. This is for when you're gonna cook a bunch of fried fish, or you're gonna have a lot of stuff in here, like a curry simmering for hours on the stove. And these are really great for if you've got, if you've got propane heat, then that's a different game. But a lot of the ranges in Canada where I live, they're electric. So one of the problems with that is you don't get that even heat on the bottom of the pan. But because these cast iron pans are so dense, they distribute that heat well, and that's part of what keeps things from burning on these. The heat is distributed so well. So this is a nice big one, and you can use this for lots of things. This was a Lodge pan, 10SK, whatever that stands for, USA. Someone tell me what SK stands for, 10SK. I guess this is like 8SK, and this is probably 6SK. If you look closely at any one of these pans, I don't know if it comes across on camera, but there's a shine. See how there's a sheen? Same with this one, right? Same with the other one. And that's because every time you clean the pan, which is very easy to do, I'll walk you through all that in this video. Every time you clean the pan, once it's dried out, you just rub a little bit of oil onto it. All I do is put like literally a drop, like something the size of a nickel or a quarter. Drop of oil, move it around, done, right? And it's really not that big a deal, right? By doing that, you preserve that Teflon-like performance that the pan has. One important thing is that it's really not a good idea to cook something that's a high acid content, like tomato sauce, if you're going to make pasta. I've made pasta in these, but what I find is that if you cook a spaghetti sauce in one of these, and I do it for a long time, when I make spaghetti, I saute everything in here and I add the tomatoes, then I stick it in the oven for a few hours to get a nice deep red color and just concentrate everything and get that nice baked flavor. When you're doing that with something like a tomato, which is high in acid, it breaks down the coating. I mean, when you buy these brand new, they're just bare steel, and you have to rub oil on them and put them in the oven at a certain temperature and bake them like that. And there's a bit of a process to get them to a point where they're going to have a nice seasoning like this, where nothing really sticks. And you can undo that very easily by making spaghetti. The good thing is that you can just, re-season them. And all I do to re-season them is I just rub some oil on it. You don't leave an excess. You basically put the oil and you rub it off. You've got a little cloth like this, and you just make sure everything's coated in oil. You put the oven on 350, put the pan in, turn the oven off, go to bed, right? The next day, try to cook with it. If things are still sticking, just do the same thing the next night. In a day or two, you're gonna be back to this. And as long as you don't do something like, as long as you don't make spaghetti sauce in these, or, very important, do not put them through your dishwasher. That will take that nice seasoning off. Seasoning just means there's all kinds of oil and other stuff impregnated into the metal, and it gives it that nice property of being, doesn't stick. And you also can't wash these with soap and water in your sink. And someone's gonna be like, ew, you don't wash them? You wipe it out and you get all the foreign matter off. You pour water over it, so it basically removed everything. And then the next, you can put it in the oven, you can heat it up, but basically the next time you cook with the pan, you are gonna heat the pan, and the pan's gonna get hot, and anything that was still there is just gonna be dead. For instance, I'm gonna make eggs right in a few minutes. So while I'm talking, I'm going to take this pan and I'm going to put it on the oven. I'm going to put it on a setting like 6. So while that's heating up, I mean, there's nothing in that pan. That pan's safe. I would eat it of it right now. But just in case there's something kicking around, the heat, right? You're heating it, right? What does heat do, right? Especially, if you've got a pan in the oven, before you put the food in it, it's going to be a couple hundred degrees, right? Way above boiling. If you get water out of a stream somewhere, you boil it at 100 degrees Celsius, it's safe to drink. Well, we're going higher than that in the pan. You can't touch it, you burn your fingers, right? So that is sterilizing the pan. Every time you use this pan, you're going to sterilize it. So don't worry about that, right? The benefit is that you get something that's going to last years and years and years. So just wait a couple more minutes for that pan to heat up, and then let's go fry it. Oh, one more thing. Yes. So you might ask, well then, how do I make spaghetti if I can't use my cast iron pan? Well, you get another kind of pan that lasts for years and years and years, the kind they use in restaurants. There's a store that restaurants buy supplies in here where I live, near Halifax. So this is a wok. We'll talk about that too. And you get these alloy pans, right? These last years and years and years. I don't know what brand this is. Town B. I can't read it. It's been used so many times. I think it's made in Germany. Yeah, Germany. No, Thermalloy. Something Town Thermalloy. Anyway, this is a 12-inch, 30-centimeter pan. So when I make like a spaghetti sauce, I just make it in this, and that way I can throw that in the oven. This is a different kind of metal. These are still pretty good with having things not stick on them, but they're just a different kind of pan, and there's a different way to use these, I find, to make them sort of stick-proof. The cast iron pan has a really flat bottom, so when you put it on the stove, it doesn't move around, right? And it distributes the heat really well. these thermalloy pans, I find, they get a bit of a rounding on the bottom, so they move around. And so when you're trying to like saute and fry in them, the oil might pool in one end, and so you're not getting proper heat distribution and proper, you know, lubrication with the oil. So I find a solution, if you have a wok, and this is what's it called, a carbon steel wok, so it's not cast iron, but it's steel, it'll rust. And you treat this exactly the same way you would a cast iron pan. You season it, you heat it up, and you don't wash it with soap and water. But they usually come with these rings, right? So when I'm using this, I put the burner on high. I just have an electric burner here. And then I put this on top of the wing, or on top of the ring. And it doesn't, see when it's here on a flat surface, see how this is wobbly? You put it on here, not wobbly, right? And because it's over, you know, because it's about 1.5 inches, right, 5 centimeters or whatever above the burner, it's almost like you've got it over a fire. So you get that nice and even heat, just like it was over a propane, right? So that's how you solve that problem. You gotta, in my opinion, everyone should have a wok anyway, especially one like this with a one handle like this. I mean, you can still two-handed. There's a kind of wok they sell with like 2 handles. I don't find them particularly useful. I like having this big handle like this here. And I mean, you can put a stick in the end, but I don't know why it's hollow, like you could add length to it, but I find I hold it pretty deep. You know, and if it's hot, I just use a rag sort of thing, right? And if it's really heavy, I just grab the other end, right? So I'm going to pick it up like that, right? So this is a really versatile kind of wok. I think every kitchen is incomplete without a wok. But they always come with these rings if they don't have them at your grocery store, if you live somewhere where there's an Asian grocery market, and that would be the best place to buy a wok, not a not a high-end restaurant boutique or a grocery store. I would go to an Asian grocery store. You know, those are the people that use woks, and the customers demand woks that work properly. And this is the kind, you know, and there's really, you can get those ones that are all hammered out and stuff like that. But I mean, the main thing is that it's carbon steel, right? If you're looking at the different kinds, you'll notice it's not super shiny like stainless steel, and there may even be a bit of rust somewhere on it. It's not a big deal because you're going to season it and all that's going to just go away. But one of those, and the heavier it is, the better. It's going to last you a lifetime, and nothing sticks to these either once you get them properly seasoned. All right, I think this is heated up now. We're going to check. We'll do a little test to see if it's heated up, and we're going to do scrambled eggs, and because that's something. You know, a lot of people, they make scrambled eggs, they almost like they glue on or weld to the pan. So let me show you what happens when you cook scrambled eggs in a properly seasoned cast iron pan. All right, so we got a bowl here, we got a couple eggs. We're gonna crack these and stick them in the bowl. These are actually, part of the reason I'm making scrambled eggs is that these are actually stuck to the carton, so there's only one way they're coming out. And they ain't gonna be pretty, so I'm just gonna crack that and have it come out. I don't know what happened, but sometimes that happens, right? This one doesn't want to come out either. Oh, we got that one out. There we go. And there's a shell left in there. All right, we'll whip that up. Now, I mean, if you I happen to be lactose intolerant, so I can't put any milk in here. I'll put water in here. I basically, for each egg, I might put like a, I don't know, tablespoon of water. But of course, if you can put milk or cream or whatever it is that you like in there, you go for it. Do whatever floats your boat. That's it. All right, so I got my water in there. I like to add a pinch of salt. My eggs. You can add pepper, whatever you like. All right, so that's nicely combined. Set that aside. Now, we're going to check to see that the pan is ready. You just put a bit of water in it. Hear that sound? Pan's ready. All right, so we're going to put I'm going to use, I mean, if you watch someone like Gordon Ramsay, he'll say there should be I think the French recipe is something like a teaspoon or a tablespoon of butter per egg. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use about a teaspoon of this fake butter, B-cell, vegan, whatever. can just use oil too, but I find this has a slightly better flavor. You just coat the pan with the oil. Throw in your eggs. At this point you can turn it up a little bit. I had this on 6 because it'll get too hot. If you have these pans too hot before you add the food to them, it'll get to a temperature, the smoke point of the oil, right? So when you're heating the pan up, you just put it on 6 that way. For me it's 6. Basically whatever heat that's below the heat that makes the thing start to smoke, right? So for me that's 6. So don't put it on max to heat it up. I find that just causes problems. But now that the egg's in here, I can turn it up a bit. And that'll just get things going a little faster. Now the trick with this is so I just added water to, actually I find adding water to these makes a fantastic scrambled egg. I mean, they're really good. But anyway, the trick to making good scrambled eggs is not to overcook them. I mean, if you do it this way, I think you really won't go back to whatever you were doing before. You leave the egg in the pan, move it around a bit, until you see kind of like a bubble start to form in the pan, just the slightest hint of a bubble. Right? This actually isn't stuck. I don't know if you can see, but the whole thing's moving. It's not attached to the surface. You just leave it on the heat until you see a bubble. There'll be like almost like it'll raise up like whoop, like that. You'll see it somewhere. Once that appears, that's when I can see one forming there. You just a slight raise somewhere in the pan. It only takes less than a minute. Once that happens, I think we're there. You start moving around. See, it's all not stuck, right? And instead of, so you don't stir it around, you don't scrape. You flip it over like that. Turn it. Turn it. And the amount of oil I used, I mean, that's just, you don't have to use that. I mean, I used about a teaspoon. You could use half that. Okay, those eggs are done. That's it. See, nothing stuck. This stuff isn't stuck, right? Okay, we turn the heat off. Now to wash the pan, basically everything's out of the pan. And I can hold on. This is a bit hot, but you can hang on to the thing for a couple minutes. That's a bit hot now. Anyway, once you've gotten everything out of the pan, you just take a paper towel or an old cloth. I basically use old cloths that don't look as nice anymore, but they're still clean. You just rub that around it. Almost like when you see those guys clean the Teflon pans on those commercials, you know, where if you call now, we'll give you a free blah, 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 right? Okay, so there, the pan's clean, right? That is clean as a whistle, right? That's good. And you just put it back on the heat, right? This burner's still hot, and any whatever that needs to be killed is going to be killed. So that's basically how you clean the pan. You just wipe it, right? I'm doing this here. I normally just hold it over the sink and, you know, sort of, you know, push the stuff into the sink, but I'm on camera here. But anyway, you just give it a wipe, put it back on the burner, and it's clean. You're done. And we got these nice, soft, you know, scrambled eggs. All right, so that's a video on cast iron pans. I use them every day. Buy a set, you'll basically never have to buy pans again. I mean, I bought these years ago, and I haven't bought a Teflon pan in years, nor will I. Nothing sticks to a cast iron pan. I could have poured that right out, right? I'm not trying to sell any particular brand of cast iron pan, so hopefully you receive this video as genuine and legitimate. They cook everything fast. They're great at distributing the heat. They're great for simmering, right? The only thing you don't want to do is cook like a highly acidic material for a particular long time because it'll break down the seasoning, or, you know, wash them with soap and water in the sink. If you can get past that, I mean, I've been doing this for years. I'm perfectly healthy, so you know, it's not really what. I know some people are thrown by that, but I think people worry too much about things like that. That pan's on the heat right now. It's getting re-sterilized. Everything's fine, right? When you put a pan on a burner and you put a little bit of oil in it, the oil heats up to well above boiling temperature. Whatever is there, if there is anything there, it's going to be killed. Don't worry, and then it'll just add to the flavor, right? There's something about cooking in a cast iron pan to get a fantastic flavor. So I hope you found that useful. And if it did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my other videos. Check out my other cooking videos. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your kitchen, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. I just finished eating those eggs, and I thought one more thing, because I know people are going to ask this or they're going to say this or whatever, so I might as well address it in the video. I know there are people that are going to say, oh, but you used fat when you cooked the pan and that's bad. Well, eggs have fat in them, right? I'm just adding a little bit more fat. That whole angle about the whole pitch, that the great thing about a Teflon pan is that you don't need fat to cook with it, that was thrown at you so that you would buy Teflon pans instead of using a little bit of fat when you cook. A teaspoon of oil or less than that, or even a little bit more than that, is no big deal because, hey, you're an animal. You are designed, right? Your body can handle fat. It metabolizes fat. You have a gallbladder. It literally is designed to help you digest fat. Your body is great at digesting fat, right? If you eat too much fat, that's probably not the best move. But, in dribs and drabs and here and there, your body can handle fat. It's really not a big deal if you everything in moderation, right? So the advantage of a Teflon pan being able to cook without fat, that's only an advantage if you think that you need to cook without fat. If you're like me and you say, there's nothing wrong with cooking with fat, well then the Teflon pan becomes useless. A ripoff, right? A temporary purchase that will become garbage and fill a landfill somewhere later on, right? You look at the generation of people that came before us, like my grandmother. They didn't worry about stuff like that. They lived a long time. But everything in moderation, right? That's the catch. Everything in moderation. And if you're cooking your own food and not relying on some other person or company to produce it for you, buying prepackaged food, you control how much fat's in everything. You control how much sugar's in everything. You control how much salt's in everything. You use the right amount and you don't go overboard, right? And because you're not going cheap on the ingredients, you don't have to overdo it with the fat, sugar, and salt, right? When companies make your food for you, they go cheap on the ingredients and they load up the fat, sugar, and salt because it basically your brain says, ooh, fat, sugar, salt, I love that, right? These are great energy sources and your body needs salt to some extent. So, for me anyway, I don't worry about it. Everything in moderation. The whole idea that you should cook without any fat in the pan, that's a bitch to sell you Teflon pans. You don't need them. I don't buy them. They're a waste of money. Thanks for watching.